was telling Caleb, it sounds like he just got back from like a 5 to 7 mile run. He sounds awesome right now. So what's up, guys? Good to see you guys on here. Was that Jay? Was that you praying?
Yeah, that was me, brother.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate that. All right, rock and roll. So let's, man, we've already opened with prayer. So let's get this party started. Looks like we've got about 17 people on here right now, and I'm sure we'll have more joining us in the next couple of minutes. Here's basically what I want to do. So if you guys have some questions and stuff, write them down. As always, we'll do Q&A here in a few minutes. The first thing that I want to do is just open it up, see if anybody has some cool stories. It doesn't have to be Facebook prayer ads related, but do you have any cool stories of testimonies of what God's doing in your church, of life change, of any type of things that have any good that's kind of come out of this online church before we get into some of the material I want to talk about? Anybody have anything off the top of their head?
I do. We are a smaller church in a small town, and we've been doing online services, and we've been getting people from England and Germany tuning in and commenting on our feed. And that's really exciting because now we're reaching places that we wouldn't normally reach. We also got another testimony from a lady who has 3 teenage kids, and she just happened upon our Passover service. And she said normally her teens spend the whole time at church like scrolling their phones. And she said they became so engaged that they put the phones down and just listened to the service because the presence of God off the worship and just the message started to fill their home. And she said it was so engaging that they put the phones down. And that was the first time that she had ever seen her kids put the phone down during church.
Amy, I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. You guys are in Minnesota, right?
Yep, Belle Plaine, Minnesota.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome to the family. Amy just came on board this morning, just a couple hours ago. So that's awesome. So yeah, welcome to the crew, Amy. We've got so the next 2 weeks I think are actually going to be pretty cool. So this week I've got basically I want to talk about your comeback plan. All right, so we've got Trump is kind of starting to open up the country right now. Governors are starting to meet with business leaders and churches about opening the country back up and what it looks like to start having services again, right? So obviously different parts of the country are on a different timeline. I know a lot of the Midwest is probably going to open up before some of the East and West Coasts do. But this is the time to start thinking, what is your, what's your comeback plan going to look like, right? So whether it's a couple of weeks away or a couple of months away, now's the time to kind of craft a comeback plan. So I want to talk about 10 questions you need to be asking about your comeback plan to start formulating a plan for, and then how you're going to communicate, roll that out to your congregation. And then next week, I've got, there's a church assimilation expert by the name of Ariel Nevis, and he is based out of New York City. He's worked with some huge churches, and then and been on staff at a massive church up there, and ran all of their assimilation and next steps and membership classes and all that kind of stuff for years. And then he has actually gone out on his own. He's now working with churches and helping smaller churches kind of develop these programs, specifically with assimilation and discipleship. He's a stud and he knows his stuff. And so I actually talked to him, gave him a call and just said, hey, would you mind coming on the coaching call next week and kind of sharing what that looks like for online assimilation and discipleship right now, since we can't meet services, right? What does it look like to actually do online discipleship and assimilation through Zoom and Google Hangouts and all that kind of stuff? So he's pumped. He's actually going to be here next week, and he's a stud. And he's going to be talking about that. So if you guys haven't started looking into those things, or if you have questions about that, send them to me, and we'll make sure that he can answer them on the call next week. All right, so here's what we're going to do. If you guys have questions, as always, throw them in the chat while we're talking. I'll try to man the chat box at the same time here, and then we'll do some Q&A afterwards as well. And if you guys have any specific questions about what we're talking about here, about the 10 questions I'm about to run through, then just interrupt me and let's just talk about them before we move on. So, all right, without further ado, so here's kind of what we Pastor Bill. For those of you guys who don't know, I go to Guts Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Pastor Bill Shear, and so every once in a while we'll go to lunch, or he'll have me up to the office and some of the meetings and stuff just to kind of talk about this kind of stuff, right? Like social media technology, how we can reach more people and grow the church through social media and tech. And so he asked me to come on the staff meeting. We had a Zoom staff meeting on Monday. And there were a couple of interesting conversations that we were having about online church growth and social media and that stuff. And so there was one specific person that spoke that I was like, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about that. And so I wanted to kind of start things off by kind of talking about this, because I think this is something we all need to look at. So her name's Cassidy. She's actually Pastor Bill's daughter-in-law. So she married my pastor's son. And it's interesting. We talked about it. We were looking, our governor was talking about opening up services again May 3rd. It looks like they've pushed that back at least a week or two. So I don't know if it's going to be the 10th, the 17th, or what. But still, in the next couple of weeks, at least in Oklahoma, they're looking at opening churches back up. But again, it's going to be on kind of a limited basis, right? It's not like, hey, it's business as usual. And they're talking about starting to open up businesses again. I talked to a church in Ohio yesterday who it looks like they're doing the same thing, probably about middle of May. And then talked to a church in North Carolina today, Georgia. And they were looking in Georgia about talking a couple of weeks here away as well, right? So as we're thinking about this kind of stuff, one of the things that I thought was interesting is Cassie said, she goes, okay, here's the deal. She said, if I wasn't married to the pastor's son, I would not come back on the first Sunday that services started again. She's like, we're still in the middle of this. We're still figuring out things. So she's like, so for me, having 3 young kids at home, being a mom, she's like, I would basically say, hey, let's stay home for the next couple of weeks, right? And kind of see how this thing plays out, right? And so that was a really interesting, and I think a lot of moms probably feel the same way. And that's what she said. So she was like, hey, how do, like what do we do for the moms? She's like, I think there's a lot of guys out there who are like ready to get back to church, right? And kind of see their friends and that kind of stuff. And they're ready to take their families back to church. She's like, but I think a lot of moms are more like me, where they're like, hey, whoa, what are you doing for my kids? How are you going to keep my kids safe? What are we doing here? Like, let's see how this thing goes before we kind of come back. And so that was kind of the basis for these 10 questions here that I ended up coming up with that I want to share with you guys here today. It kind of got me thinking, okay, yeah, what's this going to look like, right? We're obviously going to continue to do live stream, continue to do Facebook Lives, and everything that you're doing. We're going to add physical church services back in, but because of the state of the country right now, even when that happens, I think it's going to look differently. I know at least in Oklahoma, they're talking about one of the proposals is to let churches, basically however many people your sanctuary seats, you can legally have half of that. So if your sanctuary seats 100 people, then you're allowed to have 50 people back in the building when you come in, but no more. And it's just, it's a weird thing, right? Because even then it's like, okay, how do you figure out social distancing? Because if you got 50 people in a 100-person sanctuary, that's still the best case scenario is people in every other seat, which is not 6 feet social distancing, right? That kind of stuff. So just something to start thinking about, right? As we reopen the churches, and we do have this, again, whether it's in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, what's this going to look like? So here are the 10 questions. First one is, what is your comeback plan? Okay, so we've all had this kind of crazy season that we're all going through and kind of figuring out and navigating, right? And at this point, you're probably at the place where you kind of started to find at least some type of rhythm as far as all the Zoom calls go or Google Hangouts, right? Figuring out how to work from home and navigate family and kids, your live stream services, that kind of stuff, right? So what is your comeback plan? And have you written that out, right? So if you haven't, I would encourage you to just take a few minutes today, start praying about it, and just start writing down a couple of ideas for what your comeback plan should be. So no matter when that is, if all of a sudden you get the word, hey, here's the date that the churches can open up, you already have a plan and you know what that's going to look like. Okay, so number one, what's your comeback plan? Number two is, what are you going to call that process of kind of re-entry or that first service, right? So, when this all started, my first thought was like, okay, we're going to be able to have a giant grand opening when this is all over, right? But the way that it's looking now, if we start opening up churches now and coronavirus is still a thing, and it's still very prevalent out there, then it's not going to be like a giant like Easter service where it's like, hey, we're all back, everybody come back in, right? Like it's going to look differently. So are you going to have a name for that first service, right? And then are you going to have a name for the process of doing that, right? Like one of the things that I've heard a couple of churches talking about is as they kind of roll this out, the first couple of weeks, they might limit the amount of people in the building, but they also might say, hey, listen, if you're over the age of 60 or 65, we're going to urge you to continue to watch the live stream for the next 30 days, and let's kind of see how this thing plays out, right? Like that might be something. Are you going to open up your kids services and still have that, right? Like if you are, what's going to change about those kids services, right? So number one is, what is your comeback plan? Just kind of 30,000 foot view. Number two is what are you going to call the process, right? Are you going to have a name for that first service or the first, series of services or those first 4 to 6 services? Are you going to have a name for that? How are you going to, communicate that to your church, right? So is it, comeback, re-entry, grand opening, grand reopening, right? What's that going to look like? I know a lot of churches that do a grand opening typically will run several services before then and build up to a grand opening, right? So we've worked with a lot of churches where we've run campaigns for them as they do a grand opening, and they basically move into like a new building. They'll run that for 1 or 2 services. I think we had one church we ran for. They ran for about 8 weeks in that building, building up to and building hype for the grand opening, and then blew the doors off this massive grand opening. And then, hey, here it is, bang, business as usual. But they basically took 8 weeks to ramp up to that. So just kind of thinking through that, right? Or what are you going to call that first service? And are you going to have a grand opening? Is it going to? I'd recommend it not be right away, right? You want to build up to that once people are getting more and more comfortable at coming back, right? And that may be several months down the road. So number 3 is, how will you get the word out, right? So I would make a list of the different ways that you want to get the word out. Once you find, okay, the doors are open again, how are we going to start to tell our people about that? So are you going to use your live stream services on Sunday and start using like a video announcement? Or are you going to weave that into the first part of your sermon or the end of your live stream service? Whenever you do announcements, right? Are you going to use Facebook Lives, right? Other types of social media posts. Just basically what do you want to do? What are you doing right now that you can use to get the word out? Which is similar, which is number 4 is specifically, all right. So you say, okay, you're going to use our services, our live streams, and our social media to get it out there. But then specifically number 4, what communication channels will you use? Okay, so make a list. So this is, hey, we're going to do Facebook Live. We're going to use Facebook Messenger. We're going to send out 3 emails. We're going to, if you have text messaging, like text in church, hey, we're going to send out text messages. Are you going to use a robocall? Ryan Wakefield uses robocalls, and they're really cool. We've done them at our church. I'm not sure if you guys have ever tried this, but it's literally a phone call that goes straight to voicemail. So, you take every single email or phone number that you have, and you can literally like upload it somewhere, and all of a sudden they have a voicemail from you as the pastor saying, hey, what's up? This is Pastor Chris. And listen, I just wanted to give you a shout and kind of let you know our plan for re-entry, or our kind of comeback plan as we begin to roll out services. It's going to look a little bit different than it ever has. And so I wanted to personally be able to communicate that to you, right? That's a really cool way to be able to send that out. So make a list of the specific communication channels that you're going to use, right? And see, are there some like that could be a little bit outside the box, like a robocall. I'll tell you, as a side note, people usually love those calls because it feels like, oh my gosh, like, man, Pastor Jamie left me a voicemail just talking to me about church. Right? They actually think it's really cool. So we've always had really, really positive response whenever that happens. So that's just something to think about. All right, and I'll start posting these in the chat here as well, so that for those of you guys who are not taking notes, here we go. So what's your comeback plan? What are you going to call the process? How will you get the word out? And then what communication channels will you use to talk about it? So number 5, and this is one I don't think we think about enough. And I know I don't, and I've been trying to help our church with this a lot, is what language or tone will you use, right? And now this is really important, and here's why. if we come back too happy-go-lucky about all of this, right, and we're kind of treating the coronavirus way too lightly, then there are going to be some people that it kind of rubs the wrong way, and some people may not come back to church at all, right? Or they may take a lot longer because they feel like we're not taking it seriously, right? So those people's like, oh, we're having church again this Sunday. It's going to be freaking amazing. Come on out, man. We're going to blow the doors off. It's going to be huge. We're so pumped to see you again, right? Like, that's not the right tone. That's not the right language. At the same time, the other end of the spectrum, right, where you can use a lot of fear-based language and be freaked out, and you know, you can actually cause fear and keep people away by scaring people off and using some of that, right? So finding the right language and the right tone for how to communicate this, I think is going to be very key as we're planning our comeback. All right, so number 6, and that's something that no matter what communication channel you're using, again, email, your messenger list, your whether it's a robocall, social media, all that stuff, it's you want to have all of that be the same type of tone, right? So whoever's doing that, if you're creating all of that yourself, or if you have people in your team that are creating that, just make sure to communicate what the tone should be and some of the language, right? Some of the phrasing that people should be using in order to kind of talk about that, and in order to post that, to make sure that no one accidentally posts something that's not right. Like, because and everybody makes this mistake, right? But it's really easy to just say, oh my gosh, you got to come to this event. It's going to be the best thing we've ever done. You don't want to miss it, right? Like, everyone always says, you don't want to miss it. Don't miss it. You don't want to miss this thing. It's like, okay, but if everything is the best thing we've ever done and you don't want to miss everything, then none of it really does, right? So finding the best way to communicate that, the best language and the best tone. And you don't want somebody to accidentally post something on your behalf that isn't on brand with that. Okay. So the next one, number 6, is what are you going to communicate? I think I actually kind of covered that, right? But what exactly are you going to communicate? Like the rollout plan? Are you just talking about the very first service? You're talking about the next couple of weeks of service, right? What do you want the content of that to be? And then number 7 is what's going to be different about your services. Okay, so I think this is really, really important, and this is one that I think we should spend a lot of time looking on. Is yeah, I'm actually going to change. So this is going to go with number 8 here that I'm gonna post in here, and this is what can you do to change the optics. So I thought this was really interesting. I heard a friend of mine say that they went to the pediatrician recently, and their pediatrician took all of the toys out of the waiting room completely, right? Normally, if you're a kid, that's the best part of going to the doctor, are the toys in the waiting room, because the rest of the doctor's office kind of sucks, right? Like it's boring, it's bland, they poke you with sharp objects and needles, like, so it's not a fun place for a kid. At least the cool part is you got toys in the waiting room, and they took that out, right? Why? And so she was talking to her pediatrician and mentioned it, and her pediatrician said, yeah, she said, here's the deal. It's super easy for us to just disinfect everything, right? And literally make sure that everything is clean and that kind of stuff, right? Like, she's like, but the optics don't look good, right? So they literally removed all of their toys for the optics, not for health reasons, not for safety reasons, but for the optics, because they wanted to communicate to their patients, hey, we're taking this thing seriously. Right? And even some of the things that we know your kids love, we're taking them away because we're putting your kids' safety first, right? That's huge. So what can you do to change the optics on those services, right? So one of the things that I think is worth looking at is, hey, does it make sense to have big yellow signs hanging up around the church reminding people about social distancing, right? I don't think anyone's going to forget, but having those yellow signs that are very prominently placed all over your building when people come back is going to communicate to the optics of that, hey, you're taking this thing seriously. And even though we're meeting in person, we're still taking the virus seriously, and we're still putting your health and your safety first, right? Some of the other things to think about, right? It's like, man, your kids workers, are you going to have kids services? If you are, right, should you put some of those toys away the way that pediatrician did? Right? Are there some things like, are you going to space the chairs out more so that the kids can't do that? Are you going to not do some of the games that you normally do because kids get closer, right? Whatever it is, asking yourself those questions and then specifically communicating them to parents, right? Because it's one thing to say, Oh yeah, well we spaced all the chairs 6 feet away from each other so kids aren't sitting next to each other, right? But if parents didn't come to church, they don't know that, right? So communicating that up front, right? Here are some of the things that we're doing to keep you and especially your kids safe in our kids ministry, right? So communicating those things. Should all of your kids volunteers be wearing gloves, right? Like again, they may or may not need them, but the optics that's going to communicate that you care about kids. Right. I went to a drive-through the other day. My wife was craving, I don't even remember what it was, a burger or something like that. And so I went somewhere and picked it up. And the guy handed me my food and he didn't have gloves on. And I just thought, like, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, it's a coronavirus. Like, how do you not have gloves on when you're handing me my food? Right? Now, the reality is that guy could have been using like a gallon of hand sanitizer a day. He could have been washing his hands in between every single drive-through person. I have no idea. For me, it was just the optics of like, man, there's a virus going on. Everyone's quarantined, and you just handed me food without gloves on, right? So what's that look like, right? Does it make sense to have masks for your volunteers and that kind of stuff, right? If so, is there a way to spruce up those masks, at least in the kids department, right? Can we draw smiley faces on them or make them bright colors or something so that it doesn't feel so surgical, right? But at the same time, still communicate safety. Oops, that one actually says 9, but it was actually 8. All right, and then the last two are, it's gonna be this one here. I'll repost these here in a second, so some of them aren't out of order. But how many weeks away will you start rolling out the comeback plan to the church, right? As you start to communicate people, communicating the week of is probably not the way to go, right? You wanna start planting that seed of, hey guys, in a couple of weeks, we're probably gonna start having services again. Right? And when we do, here are some of the things that we're thinking through. You don't even have to have all of the answers. Just share with your people some of the things that you're thinking through so they know that you're thinking about them. Sometimes that's one of the most important messages that you can communicate. Hey guys, we know that this isn't going to be business as usual, right? And so as we come back together and we start to have church again, we're kind of meeting as a team, and we're kind of figuring out the best way to have church, but still keep everyone safe and still keep your kids safe. And so I just want to let you know, we're thinking through that, we're praying through that. And if you guys have any suggestions over the next couple of weeks, man, email me or text me or let us know, because we want your feedback, because we want your help in figuring out the best way to kind of start to have church again, but keep everybody safe at the same time. Right? People are going to love that. Even people that don't end up giving you any feedback love being asked for their feedbacks. They feel like they're part of the process. And so how many weeks away are you going to start rolling that out? And then finally, the last one is kind of the question that I opened this with, but it's how can you make moms feel safe about bringing their kids back to church, right? So that's kind of been a theme through a lot of these questions, but I think answering that specific question, right? So if you've got a mother hen who has not let her kids leave the house for the last month and a half, right? Like how can you make her feel safe saying that, hey, it's going to be safe to bring your kids back, right? What are you going to communicate? And again, that may not be for that very first service, right? It might be a couple of weeks in, right? You might want kids coming to the first couple services, you may not, right? So thinking through that stuff, and then just specifically, what can you communicate to moms to make them feel safe about bringing their kids back to church? All right, so real quick, just running through all of them, top to bottom. What's your comeback plan? What are you going to call the process of reentry? How will you get the word out, right? Services, live stream, social media, what are you going to use? Number 4, what specifically communication channels are you going to use? Facebook posts, Facebook ads, Instagram, robocalls, email, messenger list, that kind of stuff. Number 5, what language and tone will you use in all of your communication as you're talking about reentry? Number 6, what are you going to communicate specifically, right? You're going to communicate we're only having half the amount of people, we're only allowing this many people in. What specific things do you want to communicate? Number 7, what will be different about your services, right? Are you going to have social distancing signs? You're going to have gloves, masks on your kids' workers, right? That kind of stuff. Are you taking some of the chairs out of the sanctuary? What's going to be different about the services themselves? What can you do to change the optics, right? Just to be able to communicate that you're taking people's safety seriously and putting people first. Number 9, how many weeks away will you start rolling out the comeback plan to the church? And then finally, number 10, how can you make moms feel safe about bringing their kids back to church? All right, so those are the 10 questions I wanted to hit up. I've got a couple of extra minutes here that we can do like some Q&A or basically talk about anything you guys want to. So do we have anybody on here specifically that has any questions or anything they want to, any either ideas that you have or questions that you want to ask here? Okay, here, Sean just put one in here. So Sean said, get a high percentage of people who click on our ad connecting to our online service. Do you think we should continue inviting them online into the future or switch to physical on-site invites once things go back to normal, assuming they go back to normal? Okay, great question, Sean. So here's what I would do. I would basically, everybody that's in your messenger list that has subscribed, I would continue to invite them to live streams. And I would make that one of the communication channels you're going to use to talk about the reentry process, to talk about your comeback plan. And so talk about it on those live streams so they can hit it, or they can hear it, excuse me, but then also use your Facebook Messenger list when, when you're a couple of weeks out at least, to start communicating the plan and say, hey, listen, if you're new and you just started attending our church online for the first time, we want to invite you out to our physical services, right? Come meet the family once we start back up. But here's what that's going to look like. And here's how we're putting you and your family's safety first as we begin to roll those out. Right. So communicate that to them. And then once you start to have physical services again, right, then you can change it from the live stream invites over to physical services. So I think that's going to be, so the short answer is both, right? Services are going again, then invite them out to the services. All right, Ezra, if we can only fill half the seats, how do we facilitate? Short answer is I don't know, right? Like I've got some ideas, but I don't think anyone has kind of figured this out either. This is actually one of the things we talked about at staff meeting was, okay, so, we have a fairly large church, right? So there's a couple thousand people that show up every single Sunday morning. How do we say, hey guys, we've got 1,500 seats in the auditorium, but only 750 can show up, right? Like same thing, right? Do you have tickets? Do you do online RSVPs, right? You have to have some kind of plan your visit thing or like a save your seat or reserve your seat kind of thing, right? Like, so I think one of the interesting thing, and probably the size of your church is going to matter on this as well. I think one of the things to look at might be slow rolling a re-entry process and literally only inviting certain people to the first couple weeks. Right now, I might change my mind on this next week, but the thing that I've been thinking about since Monday and we were on here, right, is one of the thoughts is like, okay, if you just invited kind of like your core leaders and volunteers to the first service, right, then it's like, hey, it's almost kind of invite only, right? And so, and you can literally let people know, hey, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be slowly inviting people back in, but to keep your safety first, right, we're going to be slowly kind of bringing people back in. So we'll let you know once we've opened it up completely here, but we just want to give you guys a heads up on that, right? And so maybe every week you invite a couple more people and just say, hey, we can only have a certain amount of people in the building. Could you please text me back an RSVP and let me know if you and your family are coming and how many people you'll be bringing, right? And I don't think that's too much to ask, and I think people will appreciate that at least to start with, right? So some type of RSVP invite only thing to start with, or at least for that first one or two services might be a way to go. But if I think of something else, I'll definitely bring it back to the table because so that's something we're trying to figure out in our church as well. It's a great question. Okay, let's see. JT wants to know, is this be available for playback so I can share this with my leadership team? Yes. So I literally called Caleb and I was like, hey, I know you feel like you just got hit by a truck. Can you just log in and start the coaching call and live stream it to YouTube so that we can send the replay out? So yes, it will be. We have, I think I put it in the comments before. Let me do it right now. So we actually have a YouTube channel that we post the replays to every single week. Last week, since Caleb wasn't on here, I forgot to do it. And so that's why I was like, hey, if you just hop on, start everything and start recording it to live to YouTube, I won't forget. So let me find that real quick and I'll put the link here. So if any of you guys ever want to go back, because except for last week, every single week, we always post the replay. And here is the YouTube link right here. Okay, so I just put that in the chat. that's where we'll post the replay of this and all the other ones, like I said, except for last week. Okay, Amy said, oh, Ezra, we've been talking about this also. Thought to add an additional service and break it up alphabetically by last name. Interesting, Amy. I really, really like that idea. Yeah, that's cool. So if you normally have one service, now have two. Right? If you normally have two services, maybe add a third service, and then kind of invite only. Hey, we're inviting your team or your family to the 9 o'clock service. Hey, we're inviting you guys to the 10:30 service. We're inviting you guys to the 12 o'clock service. That's pretty interesting. I like that idea. That might be a great way to kind of stagger it. Still have in-person services, but also kind of keep people safe. What's up, Jamie? Did you have an idea?
Yeah, I do. Chris, at what point do we weigh going back for the sake of going back versus losing momentum that many of us have right now because we're reaching so many people online right now?
Yeah.
Because my fear is that if we go back, we're going to lose the people that we have coming right now.
Okay. Interesting.
Because they won't come. They won't come physically, but they are coming online.
Agree.
Until we get to all clear, and I'm in Michigan, and so we're not going back for months.
Okay.
Really, it's gonna be months before we go back. And if we don't get the all clear, families aren't going to bring their kids back. They're going to be gun shy. They're going to want to be 6 feet apart. And like you said, in a smaller setting, we can say 50 people, but still 6 feet apart. You put like 13 people in the room. And so it becomes counterproductive at that point. And we have so many people that we're reaching now. They're right here in our backyard area that we've been witnessing to for years. But it took not having to go to church for them to actually come to church.
Yeah.
And they're coming every single week right now. And so what our team is talking about is just riding this all the way out to the end until we get the all clear, and then diving back in when we can go back at it with everybody and not have to play this game of you can come, but you can't come, because that's not going to work, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, it'll work with church people, but it's not going to work with fringe people.
Sure.
So that's my thought. It's kind of thing that we're kind of wrestling with right now.
Okay, so here's what I would look at, and knowing you've probably already thought through some of this. But so if you're saying, hey, at minimum, it's going to be months before we can go back, and even then, we're probably not going to do it, right? So I would look and say, okay, what realistically, what kind of timeline do you think you're looking at, right? Like, is it 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, right? 4 months, whatever it is I would look at it and find out realistically, how many weeks or how many months do you think it's going to be before you can go back? And then I'd write out your plan, like basically, okay. And a good way to do it, I've done this sometimes with business kind of stuff, or I used to do this when I was a youth pastor and in youth ministry for 15 years, is just say like, okay, if we could never meet again in a service, what would discipleship look like? What would ministry look like, right? So like, what else can we do? Because I think most churches kind of scrambled to get everything online, right, to get their live streams up and that kind of stuff. But a lot of people, at least based on some of the phone calls I've been having and churches I've been talking to, it's basically just trying to kind of survive this until we can have physical services again, and then try to do that. But I think the right question to be asking for everybody, but especially right for you, if it's going to be a couple months, is how do we thrive and build a 100% online church? How do we build community discipleship? How do we get people saved? And is there a way to what would Zoom small groups look like? What does a membership class look like? Right, like all this community aspect. It's like, man, Netflix started a thing where you can do watch parties, right? Like what if your church did like a Netflix, a Friday night Netflix watch party, and everybody watched Frozen 2? I guess that'd have to be on Disney Plus, but you know what I mean? But like one of those things where you're like, hey, Friday night, family movie night, right? We're all gonna do this, and you can set that watch party and everybody literally like logs in and watches the exact same thing at the same time through Netflix. That's kind of a cool thing, right? So how do you create that community, the stuff you would normally do in person? How do you create all that online? And just asking yourself, if we never go back and have physical services again, here's how we thrive, make disciples, and reach people for Christ.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, I like that. And listen, it might not be a bad thing waiting for that all clear, right? Like I've one of the questions I've wondered is, so let's just say, if they say, okay, Oklahoma churches, you guys can start having church again May 10th, right? Does that mean we should have church on May 10th? Right. And if we do, like, is it possible to come back too early from this when there's still too much fear and uncertainty in the city? and that it actually kind of hurts you and people kind of don't come back, and then you don't totally ever really get back to, like you're saying, like that momentum that you have, right? So that's something I've been kind of thinking through as well. Obviously, I don't have the answer to that, don't know what it is, but I think it's interesting, and obviously I think it's different for every single state and really every single city, because even Oklahoma City for us is different than Tulsa right now, and Oklahoma City and Tulsa are definitely different than like Durant, Oklahoma, and some of these other small towns in Oklahoma. So figuring out what's best for you guys. And obviously the number one thing for that's just going to be prayer, right? Just, I mean, getting on your face and asking the Lord, hey, help me with a comeback plan. What should this look like? When should we start having physical services again? And then in the meantime, figuring out how to thrive online and still continue to make disciples and reach people for Christ. Okay, so let's see. Josh said Tiger King watch party. I love it, bro. Okay, so let's see. You got a couple other questions, additional service. Yep, like that. James said he has a question. What's the question, James?
So I have a question. How do you guys deal with the liability aspect? Because that is a big thing right now. We're based in Canada, and as you know, as one of the ministerial associates, how do you deal with the liability of you have in-person services and something happens in your congregation? How does the church deal with that? What's the backup plan for that? Because most people are going to try to roll out this very quickly and very easy. I've seen drive-in services. I've seen almost different ways. I've seen people have services on a roof. So, I mean, what's the liability game plan if something happens at your church and in your first service and you find out 14 days later that, oh, this person came to your service and now there's a bad stigma towards it? What's the PR press plan for that?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and quite frankly, I have no idea. Legal stuff and all that, like, right? Like, I don't know if the best way to do is either talk to a lawyer or talk to the governor or what that looks like. If there's, but yeah, I have no idea as far as legal or liability stuff goes.
But just in the sense of like the press plan. So what's the PR like? How do you get in front of a story like that? So what would you say, like, because every church is going to have to navigate through this. So is there a way that you're going to have to get in front of the story and deal with that? And then the other question that I had was, how are you guys dealing with the giving aspect? Because that is a challenge that we're facing right now. We're getting people that are watching our live streams, but the hard part is dealing with the giving aspect, because people are just giving online, and then we want that community to happen while they're giving. So how do we deal with that aspect as well?
So let me ask you, how are you guys communicating giving right now on your live stream?
So it's all pre-recorded. So what we're doing is, you know, we can only give online through mail or generally through like PayPal, e-transfer, that type of thing. Those are the only three ways that we can do it. We don't have accessibility to do Cash App in Canada. Okay. So are you communicating, like, do you guys do like a giving message or like an offering word or anything like that in your pre-recorded live streams? We do a little time where there's like a section of the service where it's designated for people to give. Okay. So that's the way that we found it work. If there's another method, please, by all means, share that. Because I mean, we're trying to navigate this as much as possible, but we're finding that that's just what people have been accustomed to. But we want to try to change it. And the other thing too, are you guys doing other programming outside of just your regular church services, like Bible studies, small groups, or anything outside of the holistic side of it? Yes, I think every church is different, but I mean, we've been doing Facebook Lives and Instagram Live and words like our church starting tomorrow. We're actually doing a 10-day men's challenge, right? Somehow I think I got put in charge of it. I'm not sure how that happened. I was on a Zoom call with a bunch of guys. I made a suggestion, and next thing you know, I own it. So, which is pretty much how things roll at our church. But so like, yeah, like that's something we're doing just to create community, right? And like, so Pastor Bill had me roll that out to all the men of our church Monday night. So I thought there was just gonna be a few people on a Zoom call. It was about 150 dudes. And I had to roll it out. It was basically like, hey, here's something that we're doing as men of God. We want to finish this quarantine strong, right? And so whether or not at the time we actually thought we were going back May 3rd. So we're like, okay, we're going to do a 10-day challenge for the last 10 days leading back up to May 3rd when we have our first physical service again. Now it looks like that's been pushed back.
But so we're doing a 10-day challenge. I literally created a pop-up Facebook group and just said, hey, here's the deal. We're going to create a challenge, right? Like this isn't a game. This isn't easy. This is literally supposed to be hard because we're men of God, and men of God do hard things, right? And so this is going to be a challenge. Please don't commit to it if you're not a man of your word and you're not going to see it through. There's going to be a Facebook group, and every day we're going to post a challenge with 4 different areas: Bible, prayer, a physical challenge, and a leadership challenge, right? And so it might be, hey, read 5 chapters in the word, right? It might be read the book of Romans today, right? But you basically have to do that, and then, hey, spend 30 minutes praying in the Spirit, or spend 30 minutes praying for our leaders today, right? Praying for the president and wisdom for how to open the country back up, whatever it is, and having all those challenges. And then literally every single guy who's committed to it has to post in that group every single day, whether or not they did each one of the challenges, right? Because as a dude, one of the worst things in the world is literally have to go in there and say, hey, I suck. I joined this challenge and I didn't do the physical challenge today. And now everyone knows that you're not a man of your word, right? So we roll that out, and that's something that we're doing. And what's funny is people respond to strong leadership, and they respond to doing hard things, right? The right type of guys got pumped about that. I've been getting text messages. I had a guy called me this morning. It was like, dude, I'm pumped about the 10-day challenge. What can I do to get the word out? How's this going to work? Are we fasting? What are we doing? Right? Because it starts tomorrow morning. It's like, so that's just something for us. That's like, okay, yeah, hey guys, it doesn't matter if you've been killing it during quarantine or if you've been sucking right now. Right now is the time to finish strong and step up and be a man of God, right? And so we're going to be better husbands. We're going to be better fathers, and we're going to take 10 days to hit it hard, and you have no excuses. So that's just something we're doing to kind of rally the men of our church. And it's pretty easy. You need basically a Facebook group, and that's pretty much it. Right. So doing that. So it's really kind of thinking through everything that you're doing as a church and what you guys want to be doing. We're not doing small groups right now, but we have been doing different ministry. Like there's some marriage ministry groups that have been meeting online. There are some other there might be a parenting group, I think that's been meeting online and stuff like that. But our church also doesn't have small groups, right? So the majority of churches that I've talked to that have thriving small groups have moved to an online small group platform, or not platform. A lot of them have been using Zoom or Google Hangouts, but a model of online. I know Aaron Butler, who's not on here today, they started doing that the first or second week of quarantine. Is they moved to Zoom small groups and even created a couple of new ones. And they had a ton of people. In fact, at one point, I think he told me they had, I want to say 18 or 20 people that were in a marriage small group that had specifically just come from the prayer ads. They were all brand new people that were in the small group that he and his wife were leading on marriage, and it literally had all come from the Facebook ministry ads. And then basically kind of facilitating that. And he started doing, some of you guys are probably on the call when he talked about this, but a couple of weeks ago, he started doing online membership classes. And so, he had a church of running about 100 people before all the Corona stuff hit. And then he had 8 people join his church on a Saturday morning Zoom call while they went through their online membership class and basically joined the church. And I don't think they'd ever set foot inside of a physical service. They were all people that had just started attending online. So thinking through some of those types of things as well, I think it's going to be key, right? The giving stuff, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and you can go back and watch that replay if you want. But giving, it's the biggest thing with giving is never communicating need. It's always communicating vision. People don't give to need; they give to vision, right? So telling people where their money is going to, right? And talking about, listen, you want to have seed in the ground and you want to give towards this. When you give to Guts Church, right? When you give this week, here's what that's going to. Man, we've got so for us, we're communicating, hey, we have a food pantry that we do every single Friday called Friday Groceries. Before the coronavirus, on average, we handed out between 400 and 700 bags of groceries to families in need every Friday. Now, that's been closer to 2,000 to 3,000 every single Friday, and we have to do a drive-through version of it. So the cool thing is it's been a lot of free press because the news has come out every single week since quarantine started. I think this past Friday was the first time the news didn't come out again and do another story on it, because literally it's backed up 3 streets down, and you have the first week that we did a drive-through Friday Groceries, right? So everyone's out there in masks and gloves. People are 10 feet apart, but just handing out, groceries, everything sanitized. It was a pretty crazy deal, but we handed out over 2,700 bags of groceries and had 1,000 cars come through, right? And some cars had multiple families in them to get groceries and be able to help people, right? So there's still some things that we're doing. We give out a lot of shoes is one of the things that we do through our distribution center. We send them overseas to missions. We send them out to people in need, right? But just anyone that needs shoes, you don't think about it that much. There's a lot of people that don't have shoes, or their kids don't have shoes, or whatever it is. So we collect those and we fill up our entire distribution center once a year on Palm Sunday. And so for us, part of our culture is we don't celebrate Palm Sunday, we celebrate Barefoot Sunday. And so literally the Sunday before Easter, we always have a giant Barefoot Sunday. This is one of the biggest services of our year. And people come in, and the whole idea is not only do you bring in like bags of shoes and stuff like that to donate, and people go out and buy like nice pairs of shoes and that kind of stuff, but you also show up to the service and literally you leave the shoes that you're wearing at the altar during worship, and then you walk out barefoot, right? And so that's something we do. Well, we couldn't do that this year because of quarantine and because of COVID-19. So we actually had a drive-through Barefoot Sunday, and like people were just bawling in their cars as they're driving through, just handing out shoes to volunteers who are wearing gloves and masks and the whole deal. And literally like just brought in thousands and thousands of pairs of shoes. And it was a really, really powerful moment for our church. That's not something that's like external, bring in like outreach. That's just something that we do internally for our people, right? And so everyone you haven't seen, all your people in almost a month, and everyone's just weeping in their cars, and they had acoustic worship going out there with a PA system, right? And people are just rolling down their windows so they can listen to worship, and just, you see everybody that you know and love that you haven't been able to hang out with. That was really powerful, right? So just finding things, our kids ministry, they egged houses, right? Where you go out and literally shoot a text message to the parents first, hey, we're going to egg your house. And they would literally like come in the morning or overnight and put out Easter eggs all over the front yard, and like, a bunch of like signs in the ground that have like your kid's name, right? So like we woke up one morning, went outside, and there's candy and eggs all over the front yard, and it just said Happy Easter, Chase and Zoe, right? And then had like little Easter baskets so they could run around grabbing those things, right? We don't have to do those types of things just for Easter. We can do those for the families in our church. It doesn't have to be an Easter egg hunt, right? It can be dropping off a survival pack, or it can be dropping off candy, or creating a scavenger hunt or a treasure hunt for kids in your kids ministry. Like those types of things are just things to think through. Man, what can we do online, right? The Netflix watch party thing, like with families. It's just so. I think the answer is yes. You have to be doing more than just live stream. But every church's DNA and vision is a little bit different. So figuring out what things are going to fit your church's DNA and are going to be is going to be the right fit. All right, let's do a couple of more here, and then we're going for almost an hour, so we'll let everybody get back here. Let's see. JT put a PDF in the chat. Looks like COVID-19 Church Mutual Insurance. I think that is. Okay, so very cool. Douglas been running the prayer, $15 a day. Okay, so Douglas basically saying, hey, we've been doing this $15 a day. Should we bump it up to $30? I would, man. So here's the deal: is I think the more people we can interact with online right now, and that we can reach, right, regardless of how many of them are coming to our live stream services and that kind of stuff, that's like we're basically sowing seed right now. Right. And as we continue to sow seed over the next couple of weeks and months, there's going to be a tipping point where we begin to walk in the harvest of the seeds that we've been planting. Right. And I think praying with as many people as humanly possible is going to be one of the biggest things that we can do right now. Just connecting with those people. We're not asking for anything. We're just praying for them. Right. Some of them are going to naturally end up in our live streams. Some of them are going to naturally end up in our physical services. And once we get the all clear and things do go back to normal, we'll switch that back over to plan your visits, right? And I think you'll be able to use your messenger list and the relationship equity and leadership equity that you've built during this time to get those people from online back into your physical services, even the ones that don't end up watching your live stream. So yes, if it was me, I'd be going all in on the prayer ads right now. We've even had a lot of churches who had other types of ads going, who stopped those and went back to the prayer ads simply because they're just connecting with people. And right now, everybody needs prayer, right? Everyone looks to God in a storm, and they're looking for leadership. So yeah, man, I'd put as much of that out there as possible. All right, let's see. Weekly prayer group that meets via Zoom. We also have a video live feed from a private Facebook group for older ones who are isolating at home but want to join. I like that. one of our Sunday school leaders Zoomed from my office and read the Easter story to one of our regular students. I love that. I think that's awesome, right? Like we've been putting a lot of kids curriculum online lately. We have a junior kids service, which is our 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. They've been putting services online so that people can check them out and be able to watch them on Sunday morning. It's all pre-recorded, but they can watch them on Sunday morning, put them on YouTube and social media and Instagram, stuff like that. I think that's great. And I love that idea of, I personally think, right, like especially encouraging like your kids pastors and your youth pastors to be reaching out to people. Man, one of the most powerful things that you can do is send a video message. Right, like literally, like, and I think as pastors, we should be doing this. I've done this several times to just guys I haven't seen in a while in church, or guys that the Lord puts on my heart. I'll pray for them, and I'll just pick up and record a quick selfie video. Right, just say, Sheldon, what's up, dude? It's like, hey, man, I was just sitting here, man. I was thinking about you. I was praying for you, man. I want you to know I'm excited about what God's doing in your life. And man, I was reading the Word, and check out the scripture that I found here this morning. I think this might help you. Right, or just sharing a quote, or just letting them know you're thinking about them. Those types of things. I think are huge, right? That's just leadership stuff. So, and gosh, doing a Sunday school leader Zooming from your office and reading the Easter story to one of the students is awesome, right? Like, I mean, that's a big deal. See, Amy said we've been recording Zoom and Facebook Live separate, but at the same time, we open Zoom to our congregation only, and then open 20 minutes before service starts. Keep it open at 30 minutes after service. You can still chat and connect and process questions after the service. I like that. I think that's awesome. Be able to create a conversation around the service. It's nice, kind of similar to an in-person service because you still get the same connection time. I love that. I think that's huge. In fact, now that you say that, I'm like, oh shoot, I'm probably going to make sure talk to my church, because I know a lot of times as soon as the live stream's over, our live stream just ends and then you can't talk anymore. So I really like that idea, Amy. That's awesome. I'm going to steal that from my church this week. All right, let's see. Does everyone know to jump into the comments on the post and connect with them too? I'm getting a ton of connection. The comments on the post, sending the rest. Yeah. So Sean, can you talk about that a little bit? Kind of what you're doing in order to do this, so everyone understands.
Yeah, and I'll give a shout out to Jamie on this, because he's the one. Jamie and I have known each other a long time, but he's the one that told me about this. I think you told Jamie about it. But on the Facebook ad, people comment on there, and you can go on there and reply the comment. So what I've been doing, I like the comment. I just give a quick reply to that person, tag them, and say, hey, I'm praying for you. But you can also, if you get in a certain time frame, you can message them, send them a private message. Yeah. So I send them a private message with the same information. I also in that message invite them to church. I end it with a, hey, so do you think you can make it type thing. They if they respond, they go into ManyChat right away. So now they're in our audience. And then, so they're not connected with the bot. I'm doing the work of the bot at that point, but still I'm getting probably just as many people through the comment section as I am that are clicking on the link. So that's a way to double the amount of results you're getting. So, and they don't cost, I mean, it's not costing you the click on the link, so.
Yep. Just a little bit of elbow grease, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of hustle. I love it. So thanks for bringing that up, Sean. We actually haven't talked about that in a couple of weeks. So I'm glad you brought that up. I'm putting a video in the comments here. So that YouTube link right there is actually, on one of these calls, we actually connected an iPhone and showed exactly how to do that. And you'll see me literally get confused in the middle of it because I was doing it for the first time on the call. Somebody explained how to do it and it was like, Caleb, here, hook this up and let's figure it out. But on there, we literally walked through as one of the coaching calls. I actually had Caleb went in and found that here about 2 weeks ago and then just edited that. So that link right there will actually show you how to do what Sean's talking about, where I can't remember if I want to say it's like 7 days. Sean, does that sound right? Where you have like 7 days to be able to message them after they comment, right? So you can actually go back to your ad and find everyone who has put a comment on there in the last 7 days, and you can do this to every single one of them. And then once you start commenting with them in Messenger, right? Like now you have them on your Messenger list and they're connected and everything. So that's a huge deal once you get them in there. So especially for some of you guys that have been running for a while and you've got like hundreds of comments, right? This is a great way to be able to get them from the comment section of your ad into your Facebook Messenger so that you can communicate with them. All right, let's see. And Amy was talking about the comments, important points making, people come back. Okay, I like that. David, yeah, if you have questions, just stick around afterwards. We can talk about ManyChat, no problem. Okay, so I think that's about it as far as questions and stuff go. So again, I put the YouTube link to the channel where this is going to be posted, the replay, and then also put that YouTube link in there that Caleb created of how to respond to those comments and then bring them into Messenger, like Sean was just talking about. So. All right, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Again, just shoot them over to Heather and we will get back to you guys as soon as possible. We've been slammed lately, but it's been really, really good and we've been helping a lot of people. So pretty pumped. So thanks for hanging out. You guys, man, we'll see you again next week. Again, definitely make it back because Ariel's going to be awesome. I've had a couple of conversations with him and the dude just knows his stuff and he blows my mind every time. So we'll do that next Wednesday. He'll be talking about online discipleship and assimilation and what that looks like while we're still 100% online services. And just know that we are legitimately praying for you guys because we are praying for every single one of the churches that we work with, that God gives you creative ideas and ways to thrive during this unprecedented time in history, but exciting time in history where, man, the country is more open to the gospel than they ever have been. So love you guys. We'll see you next week. And David, yeah, hang out for a second.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, I had a couple questions too. This is David, number 2.
Yeah,
is it okay if I...
Yeah. Why don't you stick around? Let's see if, just in case you have the same questions that the other David has, and then stick around. And then after we get to David's questions, we can answer yours as well here.
Sure.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Chris. We just got on to ManyChat Tuesday. I can't find on my ManyChat where those conversations are, where the flow is. Because there's a couple of statements I wanted to change or whatever, but I can't find any of it. I'm wondering if I just didn't get the right admin sign up or what's going on there.
Let's double check. So when you got the admin link, did you set yourself up as an admin inside of ManyChat?
Yes.
Okay. So let me double check here. Remind me of the name of your church, David.
North Point Church.
Okay, perfect. That's right. North Point Church. All right. So I'm pulling it up here real quick. Let's make sure that you're an admin, and then I'll show you where you can find those.
Okay.
Boom. Okay. Yes, you are in here and you are an admin, so you'll be able to change everything. Excuse me. Man, I'll tell you what, I don't know what happened, but I've like gotten hooked on Pellegrino.
I love that stuff, by the way.
I'm telling you, man. I stopped drinking pop. I started doing like the whole keto thing, right? Been losing weight, getting healthy. But I was like, man, the thing that's a bummer is like my wife and I would like go to like, Quick Trip at the gas station or something every once in a while, like go get like a pop. It was like nice, like, hey, let's go get a pop. Right now I'm like, shoot, what do I do since I'm not drinking that stuff? So finally I found this. I'm like, okay, now I've got something I can get excited about going out to. It's like, yes, I'll go get a sparkling water and we're good.
Yep, I like it too.
Awesome, man. All right, so let's see where I can, let me pull that up, right? So you're talking about some of the automated sequences in the actual prayer.
Yeah, I can't seem to find it.
Okay. All right, so let me share the screen and I'll show you how to get there. Okay, boom. So we're in the back end here. All you're gonna do once you log into ManyChat, you're gonna go to flows. Okay, and then this imported from Trinity Creek here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fictitious church we just made up, but me and my business partner live in a community called Trinity Creek. So we just made it just so we basically set up a dummy account and then that's where we export everything from. So you'll go to live stream invite and that's actually has the prayer and everything, right? So we'll move this out of the way now. So you're in flows, imported from Trinity Creek, live stream invite. And then now so you just click edit flow. And then, so you go in here, just be careful not to change any of the settings, but you can change the word, no problem, right? So,
okay, well That's huge. That's where I couldn't find, I didn't know I should have done the import thing. That's where I was looking. I didn't see that button. So that takes us everything.
Yeah, that's it. Once you get in there, literally just have to click edit flow, right? And you click in here. I mean, you can literally just change anything you want to.
Awesome.
And then just click publish. Otherwise, they won't go live.
Right.
So
Hey,
as long as you don't change any of these things, you're good to go, man.
That's what I was looking for. I really appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah. That's what, man.
Such a simple deal too. It was ridiculous.
It usually is, but that's why a lot of times we do. I'm like, hey, let's just hop on a Zoom. It's way easier to just answer it real quick, right? Or sometimes, So glad.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for your help. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, David. Great to see you, man.
Yep. Take care, bud.
See you, brother. All right, David Ashley, what's up, bro? How can I help?
Yes, sir. So, questions about my about the entire process. So up to date, I think I got 68 people that have commented. Out of the 68, I think I have 16 that have it's about that number, 16 that have did the planned new visit, which is really because we haven't launched, is really just making sure we got their contact info, right?
Yeah.
So I've had people to click on the ad, instead of hitting send message, they just type a message.
Right.
Is there a way that I can, can I copy, if I were to copy and paste the post, does the system continue, or is it just now general text and now we're texting back and forth? Because I had somebody text, like some people are not answering questions properly. Like I'll come back later and say, hey, because they didn't follow the flow correctly, it's like, hey, are you interested in hearing about the church launch? And they'll say yes. And if I ask them for the number, I don't think the number wouldn't automatically be kept in ManyChat versus just on the text. So I thought about telling somebody, hey, can you go back and just click on where it says tap here? But I don't know. Yeah.
So unfortunately, there's no way to kick off that automated sequence if they don't click that. And the reason is, so those are rules that Facebook has set up. Because basically what Facebook is saying is they're like, hey, unless somebody clicks the button, they basically say, hey, they have to click a button to be subscribed to your messenger list. And that subscription is what kicks off the automated sequences, right? So Facebook says, hey, you can do that, but only if they subscribe, and they have to click a button to basically opt in and subscribe. So that's why there's people who don't listen, right? Who just say like, who start typing, they didn't read the directions, or for some reason they decided not to click that button. That button is what subscribes them. And that's what gives ManyChat permission. And then Facebook says, okay, go ahead and send the automated sequences, right? So basically Facebook says, if they don't click that, we're not gonna let you send automated sequences. So unfortunately, so you can still converse with them, but like I said, it's all manual. And unfortunately, Facebook's rules is unless they click that button, you can't kick anything off. So it's basically just figuring out like, okay, so here's what I would try, right? People might actually give their phone number, right? So what I would do is, if you talk to people, just say, hey, would you like me to let you know, or would you like to know more information about the launch, or would you like me to maybe if you just said, would you like me to send you a text when we launch, right? Then I think most people are going to say yes to that, right? Like, so it's just like, hey, we're going to be launching here in a couple of months, man. Would you like me to shoot you a text whenever we launch and let you know some more information? Most people are going to be like, yeah, sure, right? And just say, okay, great. What's the best number to text? Right. And then people are probably going to give it. So you would probably have to keep a spreadsheet or like a running list of those names and numbers. But at least when that rolls around, that would be easy because you just have it all on like, the same like Google Doc or something like that.
Okay. So I signed up for Text in Church. So
perfect.
Should be able.
Perfect. Yeah. So you can submit. In fact, that's what I would do. I would just create a group in Text in Church, right? And when you collect those phone numbers, just put it in there. The other thing that you could do is probably like once a month, you could send out a broadcast to all of your subscribers, right? Which is and literally just say, hey, if you want to, just kind of cast a little bit of vision, talk about, hey, we're going to be launching a new church. Here's what you can expect. If you want us, if you want us to send you a text when we launch, click this button, right? Or something like that, right? And you could actually set up like a smart connect card in Text and Church, where it literally just takes them straight to the landing page and they type in their own phone number and click submit, and then it would automatically add them to the group. So, that's something you can set up inside of Text and Church, and they make it real easy, right? Like if you probably already have like a group that you've created in there for like people text messages, right? So they have that option to create a smart connect card. So yeah, I would just do that. And that way you could send out a broadcast. It'll go out to everybody. You'll probably have, 90 to 95% open rates, right? On average, it's 93% open rates on those. And if you do it once a month, you hit everybody, and then just say, hey, if you want us to, maybe just say, hey, if you want us to let you know when we're sort of, just click on this link, right? And then click on it, and it'll go straight to that connect card and say, hey, pop in your number below, and we'll shoot you a text message, when with all the details when we're going to launch, or something like that, right?
So I didn't even think about that. So the same way they would have been able to tap their phone number automatically comes up, they can just confirm. I can set that up in broadcast, and then it can ask for their email and then their phone number next, kind of like the sequence would have before.
So you could, if you're using Text and Church, I would set the broadcast up to just like, hey, if you want to know, click on the link below and we'll notify you. And then that link will actually take them to a smart connect card in Text and Church. That way there's no extra piece where you have to go in and like take all their information and then upload it to Text and Church. If it just goes straight there and just says, hey, type in your name and number below and we'll text you when we get close, right? Like you can put that on in the smart connect card. That way they just enter it once and it automatically goes into Text and Church, and then you don't have to do anything with it. Sure.
Okay. Now I don't feel as bad as missing out on those numbers when they go out of sequence.
Yeah.
The other question, I don't want to keep you long. So my ad has been running. When it first started off, it was about 5 a day, 6 a day, 7 a day, and it's slowly gotten down to 1 a day. It might be 4 again the next day, but then it's 1 consistently, 2, 3, like this week. So I feel like the numbers are good as far as we're just 2 weeks in and got 68 people, or 78, pushing 70 people. So is there a budget strategy that I need to reassess? Because as I look in my ads account, I think I have like $10 a day, but I don't think that it's like fully getting that $10, because when I look at the total number spent in the time frame, it just doesn't add up to $10 a day. So maybe the 200,000 reach in my area, maybe that's not. I don't know.
What's the name of your ads account? Do you know off the top of your head?
Purpose Transformation.
All right. Perfect. Okay. Let me take a look here. All right. So oh gosh, yeah, bro, you're freaking killing it. Yeah.
Oh, I feel good. I feel without you, I would like, how would I launch this church versus word of mouth? Because as I talk to people, the first thing they say is, you got your, get your core team together, get your that. And I'm like, I don't have a core team, just me and my wife trying to push this thing. So it's like,
yep.
I have to, not to convince, but I don't feel right getting volunteers from other churches. They're like, you can get volunteers from other churches to help. And it's like, I'm at this place where, I feel so good in my spirit every day, just waking up, just knowing I'm going to get someone that might be connected in such a way. So I'm blessed. I'm happy with the results. But now that I see that it's like, I don't know what came, I think, like, I don't know what came in yesterday, maybe 2 or 3, but it's different than the 7, 8. So that started off last week. So I'm just wondering, do I need to add more money per day? Do I need to reach out farther? Because we did Chatham County, but there's some surrounding counties that's kind of borderline that may be a 15, 20-minute drive. So
here's the deal, like based on the numbers I'm looking at right now, I wouldn't touch a dang thing, bro, except for the ad spend. That's the only thing I would look at. Is if it were me, I would up your ad spend. And again, your budget better than I do, obviously, right? So if you have the budget to do it, man, I definitely would. I love to see churches do $30 a day for at least 30 days. just to get a good baseline of your numbers, right? Because at least you know at $30 a day after 30 days of data, hey, it looks like for every $10 we give Facebook, we're reaching, we're getting 3 prayer requests, right? And for every 10 prayer requests we get, one of them is signing up and planning their visit to the launch or something like that, right? Or for every 5 people, one of them signing up and planning their visit for the launch. So either way, I like that, right? Like I don't, all of it's going to be an investment, right? It's not just money. You're just burning like a direct mail campaign or something like that, right? It's not one and done. You're investing in these people, and the more and more that you build up those subscribers, those are people you can reach whenever you want to with 93% open rates for free, right? So it's like, man, I wonder what that would look like if you had 5,000 or 10,000 subscribers, on your messenger list when you launched. Like, can you imagine like 10,000, you could literally send out a broadcast every single week for the first 6 weeks of your physical services when you actually launch. And every single week it would go out to 10,000 people, and 9,300 would open it and read it. And, and then you'd probably have a couple hundred people at least showing up to church just from Facebook Messenger, right?
Are those numbers that you actually see from people you help, or there's just a possibility based off of how much money?
It's a possibility, right? Like it comes down to 2 things, like budget and time, right? So like we've got, there's a church that were, I think I showed them to you when we first talked, but they were running 20 people when they started with us, and 5 months in, they've got 2,500 subscribers. Right. And they've upped the budget. Like they've gone back and forth from $10 a day to $30 a day, back down to 15, up to 20. Like, it hasn't been consistent. If they've been running $30 a day for 5 months, they'd probably be closer to 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers.
If they did 30 a day?
Yep. They did 30 a day for the first couple of months. They're just killing it. Right.
Can you switch mine right now to 30 a day, or because if you're in it, or do I need to do?
Yeah, I'm literally in it right now. So I'll just do that. And that's, so again, that's just something that it's worth looking at, right? Sure. Like it's knowing like the long-term benefit, right? And that's not the only way that you're going to launch the church is through this, but that's definitely one way that's going to help crush it, is by using your messenger list, right? So let's make sure 412. Yep. All right, let me. Okay, just made the changes, bro. You're good.
Awesome. I didn't know, was somebody else waiting? Because I had one other thing, but it's not as important. I can wait for it. I see another name up there.
I don't know. Anybody else waiting for anything? Okay, Russ. Oh yeah, Douglas, what's up, bro?
Hey, I just have one quick thing. Just trimming on what my brother just said. Could you try to do it? I think I did it correctly. Could you confirm that for me?
Yeah, let me double check.
And I'll get out your hair.
Let's see. Is the name of your account, ads account, is it The Bridge?
Yeah.
Okay, let me double check here. Oh, wait, okay. So the name of your ad account, though, is Douglas and Sheila Humphrey. All right, so.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm going in right now and double checking here. Yep, you're at $30 a day, bro.
Okay, and then like the original cost / copy where it says 15 and 15, don't worry about that then?
See, what's the original copy? Did you set up the test budget?
I think Eric set it up for me. I didn't do any of this stuff.
Okay. All right, I just republished something because I noticed something
Okay,
that I think that's going to help you. Let me check one more thing.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no sweat, man. So 490,000 potential reach. Yeah, I like that. All right, so yeah, so you should be good to go, man. I think that's I think that's going to help you right there. Is having it set up just like that.
Okay,
And
thank you, sir. You
Yep.
are the man.
No problem, man. You're
Have
good.
a-
To go.
All right, have a good afternoon.
All right, you too. See you, Douglas.
Yeah.
All right, and David, what's your next question, bro?
So I'm so excited about bots and Facebook ads and stuff. So I don't know if you remember when we were talking. I was saying I would want to learn from this process, incorporating my business. So I went to ManyChat. On their homepage. They got the free ManyChat course you can take and watch these about 14 videos to learn. So one of the things, the very last video dealt with, once you learn the flow, the broadcast, now you can focus on getting your message out to people, generating leads. So the messenger ad, so two ways you can create it. Clearly, you can create the ad in Facebook, or you can actually create it directly in ManyChat, and ManyChat and Facebook connects and start speaking to each other.
Okay.
So I haven't created a flow or broadcast, but I wanted to connect my Purpose Transformation account, and I'm trying to connect with people because I have multiple streams of income, and I want to help other people create multiple streams of income. So I want to create a selfie message saying, hey, blah, 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 you need extra streams of income, contact me, click on the link to message me, let's chat. So up to this point, after watching those videos, I'm thinking now I do that through the ManyChat, connect the Facebook page, upload the text and my video, and just let people chat with me. So I guess my question, a few things I'm afraid of. When you go in my account, I think over the years, I've created like 2 other accounts. Like there's actually a Purpose Transform. So my business Purpose Transformation, the church Purpose Empowerment Church, the ad through the church is running up under Purpose Transformation, which is that main one. But there's 2 others, and I was hesitant to delete those because it confuses me every time, because I'm clicking in them and I don't see any ads or anything, and then I realize, okay, I'm in the wrong ad. So there's no problem deleting those.
No, there shouldn't be, as long as it's not part of your. Because it's not Business Manager, right? Like they're just separate ad accounts that you have set up, like personal ad accounts.
I get confused. I thought Business Manager was the home of the ad accounts.
If you've set up a Business Manager, so I'm double checking here, but I think you have a personal, at least the one. Well, let me double check here. So I'm still in Douglas's. Purpose Transformation. Yeah, it looks like Purpose Transformation is a personal ad account. So you should be fine setting up those other ones. They're probably not under there. I can't say it for sure without seeing them, and obviously I'm not an admin on them, so I can't see them.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
You wouldn't. I was tell you can't see them right now, so I can go and delete those. And any of my businesses I choose to do this can go up under that main account. There's no problems with that.
Yeah. So the biggest thing on your account is like you can run multiple Facebook ads from different Facebook pages all under the same Facebook ads account, right? The only difference is it would all go to the same payment method. So if you wanted to have like a different credit card, then you'd want to have a separate ads account. But other than that, like you're good to go, right? If it's all coming from your credit card, then you can just run them all from the same account, right? One could be for the church, one could be from a business, one could be for like another business. I mean, all of them can be from the same account, because inside of the ad itself is where you choose what page you want to run it from.
Okay, I'm trying not to keep you. I'm getting my questions out. So I did share the message to the Facebook page. Was that okay? The church Facebook page.
What message?
The message that you created when you launched the ad for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like the actual ad itself. You shared that to the page.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but there's a way, because I've heard it called light post, dark post, where the actual ad that you create can actually be on the page versus you sharing it to the page. Was that a possibility, or do you even play with that?
Yeah, so the only way I know how to share that, let me see. Try clicking on this link. Let me see. I'm at your deal. So the light post, dark post is kind of an outdated term, right? Like back in the day, people would say, oh yeah, like a light post is like one that you're like posting on your Facebook page, right? Just like organically, or sometimes it might be a boosted post. Right, you post it on there and then you're boosting it out. And a dark post was a Facebook ad because it didn't show up there. It only showed up in the news feeds of the people that you targeted. So the only way that I know of to share this, I'm going to double check here. View desktop news feed. I think the only way to share it is like if you see it on Facebook, you like click on it, like has the share button. You click on share and then share it to your page. I think that's the only way to do it.
I guess that's what I did, because it's on my page. I just didn't know if I don't even know if the Purpose Transformation is Purpose Empowerment Church is sharing it, but it's okay. It's not that big. It's just something I was thinking, because I used to hear that light post, dark post all the time, and it's just been in the back of my mind. When it comes to the copy that that was written, are you considered a copywriter, or you got somebody else because I'm trying to think where can I go for like support as far as my copy?
Okay. Yeah, I'm a copywriter. It's either me or my business partner that write all the copy. But yeah, that's something we've been studying copywriting for years, and that's something that we do all that ourselves. So yeah, I think he wrote all the copy on the chatbot, and I wrote all the copy on the ad for the prayer ad specifically.
So is there a process to get some coaching as far as like if I have something I can do you know, because you might not even have time for this, somewhere that I could go to say, hey, I got this copy here. I think it's fire, but I need somebody else to tell me it's fire before I actually put it on an ad, because I've done this before thinking like I got this fire ad and it didn't generate the response I had. But at the time I didn't know copy, and I'm better now at understanding it's really not what I want to hear. It's really what people that are viewing the ad can connect to. So
yeah, I would say, just if you have something like that, just email it over to me, and I'd be happy to take a look at it and kind of give you my thoughts and see what's up. Yeah, it's because I don't have a formula. I've just been doing it for so long. I just kind of start writing, and then I read it over and I decide whether or not I like it and kind of tweak some things, whatever, and then launch it out there. But a lot of it too is I've just seen what works and what doesn't work. Like I've written hundreds of ads, so
sure.
You know, normally I have a pretty good idea on whether or not something's going to work. But even then, it's just testing stuff. So
okay. Not gonna keep you any longer, man. I appreciate it. I feel much better, and thank you for doing these Wednesday calls and even staying on with me a little longer. So I'm good today.
Yeah. Don't sweat, man. Have a good one. I've got let's see. I've got a strategy call here in 3 minutes, so I'm gonna hop off here and log into my other Zoom account. But yeah, I'll talk to you soon, bro.
Yes, sir. Be blessed.
All right. Hey, David.
Hey, Chris, it's Jose here. I talked to Heather, but it seemed like she was saying that I wasn't I didn't have you guys as an admin, but on my end, I see that you guys are admin on my page in the Facebook ad page. So I'm not sure what the issue is.
Shoot, I've only got about a minute and a half, but I can check real quick. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can't get back to me because I talked to Heather. I think she's still trying to look into it. And I did it with Caleb, so I'm pretty sure it's done right, but somehow she said she could not pick it up. So,
all right, let's see.
You don't have to do that now, so get another call. So just since we're still here, just mentioning that.
Well, yeah. Let me just take a look and see at least what the notes are on your account.
Good deal.
Right, ads ID number. Yeah, let me look so that's the ads account. Let me see if I can just find it real quick.
Good deal.
So it looks like it's a business manager account.
What did she do? Where's your computer? Oh, okay. Amy, you're working. Put that in the garbage, sweetie. Let's go. Hmm? Get the cup, please. Get mommy's cup.
David always texts for me except the tattoo brown one.
Okay, Jose, I think I found the problem. So I think what happened was they had the ads account number, but didn't have the name of the account. So
Yeah, it's BFC.
yeah,
The one
yes,
that's
I just found that. So BFC ads. So I'll make a note in the account. That should be everything that we need. At
Good
least
deal.
what the tech team said. Yeah, that should be everything. So I think that was the thing, is they posted the number in here, but you can't look it up from the number if it hasn't.
Gotcha.
Posted the name in here is BFC ads, and they should be able to start building that out this weekend.
Good deal, man.
Okay, awesome. Great talking to you, brother. We'll have you up and running in no time.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
All right, see ya.